What if I told you one of the most notorious serial killers in American history was a man who brought joy and laughter to many as a party clown? Yes, you heard that right. Meet John Wayne Gacy, a man whose life was a chilling paradox. During the day, he would slip into his clown attire, paint a wide, jovial grin on his face, and entertain children at parties. He was known as Pogo the Clown, a character he created himself. His charitable works and community involvement earned him a seemingly unblemished reputation. Yet he also held a macabre nickname, whispered in hushed tones, the Killer Clown. This was not a product of his performance, but a chilling commentary on his real-life persona. A moniker that hinted at the gruesome secrets he held. But behind that painted smile lurked a darkness that would shock the nation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to support our channel. Your support helps us bring more such content to you. Our story begins in 1942 in the heart of Chicago, where John Wayne Gacy was born into a turbulent household. Born into a blue-collar family, the second of 3 children, Gacy's early years were anything but idyllic. His father, an auto repair machinist and World War I veteran, was a stern and sometimes violent man, known to his family and friends for his heavy drinking. The relationship between father and son was fraught with tension and punctuated by moments of physical and verbal abuse. Gacy's father would often belittle him, calling him dumb and stupid, and criticizing him for his lack of athleticism. Amidst the chaos, Gacy sought refuge in his own world, where he displayed early signs of a troubled personality. He was known to have a fascination with toys and dressing up, often preferring the company of his sisters and their dolls to the rough and tumble play of the boys his age. He also had a penchant for deception, a trait that would later become a chilling hallmark of his adult life. The first truly alarming incident occurred when Gacy was only 7. He was caught stealing a toy truck from a neighborhood store. When his mother confronted him about the theft, Gacy showed no remorse. Instead, he invented an elaborate story to excuse his behavior. This was the first glimpse of the manipulative nature that would define his later years. Yet, despite these early warning signs, no one could have predicted the dark path that lay ahead. In school, Gacy was known as a diligent student and a hard worker, characteristics that masked the turmoil brewing within him. His teachers and peers were oblivious to the deep-seated anger and resentment that was taking root in his young heart. These traumatic experiences would cast a long shadow over Gacy's life, shaping the monster he would become. The tormented child would grow into a man capable of unimaginable horrors, his actions a chilling reminder of the lasting impact of childhood trauma. As we delve further into the life and crimes of John Wayne Gacy, we'll see how these early experiences set the stage for a reign of terror that would shake the nation to its core. In the 1960s, Gacy appeared to be a model citizen, but beneath the surface, sinister currents were gathering. As we delve into John Wayne Gacy's early adulthood, we find a man who was seemingly successful in every aspect of life. A self-made man, Gacy had a thriving career in business. He managed 3 Kentucky Fried Chicken outlets in Waterloo, Iowa, and was known for his strong work ethic and managerial skills. His colleagues and employees respected him, and he was regarded as a go-getter in the local business community. In parallel to his professional life, Gacy's personal life was also seemingly picture-perfect. He was happily married to his high school sweetheart, with whom he fathered 2 children. They led an enviable suburban life, complete with a house with a white picket fence. His family knew him as a loving husband and a doting father, a man who would do anything to provide for his loved ones. But Gacy's commitment to his community didn't stop at his front door. He was a prominent figure in local politics, serving on the Waterloo JCs, an organization dedicated to community service and even aspiring to run for public office. He was also known for hosting elaborate street parties for his neighbors and for dressing up as Pogo the Clown to entertain local children. But this was not the whole picture. Beneath the veneer of respectability and normality, something sinister was brewing. Gacy's double life was a masterclass in deception, a facade crafted with such meticulousness that it fooled not only his family and friends but an entire community. It was a facade maintained through a cocktail of charm, manipulation and intimidation, All the while, Gacy was hiding a dark secret, a secret that would soon erupt in a horrifying wave of violence and terror. His seemingly perfect life was a carefully constructed illusion, a mask that concealed the face of a monster. Yet this facade of normality was about to shatter, revealing a horrifying truth. In 1968, the mask began to slip as Gacy committed his first known sexual assaults. It was a year that marked the beginning of a chilling chapter in the life of John Wayne Gacy. Gacy, a seemingly respectable business owner, began to lure young boys under his employ into his home with the promise of money in exchange for odd jobs. It was here that the facade of normality was shattered, revealing a horrifying reality. Gacy's first known victim was a 15-year-old boy who was coerced into a sexual act under the threat of losing his job. This was not an isolated incident. Over the course of the next year, there were reports of similar occurrences. Young boys, all employees of Gacy, came forward with accusations of sexual assault. The evidence was mounting, and in 1968, Gacy was convicted on sodomy charges. But the story doesn't end there. Not by a long shot. Despite the severity of his crimes, Gacy received a surprisingly lenient sentence. He was given 10 years in prison but served only 18 months before being granted parole. This decision would have dire consequences. Upon his release, Gacy returned to society, seemingly reformed. He remarried, re-established his business, and even involved himself in community service. But beneath the surface, the sinister impulses that led to his initial convictions were far from extinguished. Paroled and back on the streets, Gacy was free to continue his predatory practices. The system had failed to recognize the depth of his depravity, and the stage was set for a reign of terror that would shake the nation to its core. As time would reveal, the early convictions were not an aberration, but a foreshadowing of the horrors to come. The leniency of Gacy's sentence, the failure of the system to adequately address his crimes, would prove to be a deadly oversight. Little did anyone know, these were just the first dark ripples of a coming storm. The true magnitude of Gacy's monstrous nature was yet to be fully revealed. By the mid-1970s, Gacy had become a predator, hunting the streets of Chicago for his victims. Like a malevolent spectre, he stalked the night, his eyes cold and calculating, searching for the next prey to satisfy his dark cravings. As he descended deeper into his vile predilections, Gacy's modus operandi became chillingly methodical. He would often impersonate a police officer or a construction contractor, ensnaring unsuspecting young men with promises of employment or simply exploiting their trust in authority. Once in his clutches, these unfortunate souls were led to his house of horrors, a place where laughter died and only terror reigned. Gacy's victims were subjected to unimaginable horrors. The jovial clown who charmed the neighborhood by day transformed into a monster by night, employing torture and psychological manipulation to prolong the suffering of his victims. They were strangled, their bodies hidden within the very walls of his home, a grim testament to the duality of his existence. Over a span of 6 years, Gacy claimed the lives of at least 33 young men and boys. Each one was a son, a brother, a friend, their lives cut short in the most horrific manner. Their innocence was brutally extinguished, their dreams left unfulfilled, their families left to grapple with a loss so profound it defied comprehension. Yet, amidst the darkness of Gacy's reign of terror, there were those who managed to escape his clutches. Their harrowing accounts would later prove instrumental in unveiling the true extent of Gacy's atrocities. They spoke of a man who reveled in their fear, a man who found perverse pleasure in their suffering. Their testimonies painted a chilling portrait of a predator hiding in plain sight, a wolf masquerading as a sheep. In his wake, Gacy left a trail of devastation that would take years to fully uncover. His reign of terror cast a long, dark shadow over the city of Chicago, a chilling reminder of the evil that can lurk beneath the most ordinary of facades. As we delve deeper into this story, we will explore the investigation that finally brought Gacy to justice. In 1978, the net finally began to close around Gacy, as a missing persons case led investigators to his doorstep. The disappearance of a young boy had the police scrambling for answers. Their relentless search led them to the seemingly ordinary suburban home of John Wayne Gacy. The man behind the friendly clown mask was suddenly under scrutiny. The investigation began in earnest. Detectives dug into Gacy's background, uncovering a trail of disturbing behavior and a history of violence. The police obtained a search warrant, and what they found in his house was nothing short of horrifying. A crawl space under the house held the gruesome truth, the remains of multiple young men and boys. The charming clown who had won over the community was in fact a monster hiding in plain sight. Gacy was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder. The evidence was overwhelming, and the nation watched in horror as the details of his gruesome crimes were laid bare. The trial that followed was nothing short of sensational. In the courtroom, Gacy presented himself as a victim of circumstance, attempting to justify his horrific actions. He claimed to have multiple personalities, a defense strategy that was swiftly shot down by the prosecution. The prosecution presented a solid case backed by damning physical evidence and harrowing testimonies from surviving victims. As the trial unfolded, so too did the full extent of Gacy's reign of terror. The jury was left in no doubt about his guilt. After 2 hours of deliberation, they returned with a verdict: guilty on all counts. Gacy was sentenced to death, a decision that brought a chilling end to one of the most notorious criminal cases of the 20th century. Gacy was unmasked, the killer clown was no more. His reign of terror had finally come to an end, but the chilling legacy of his crimes would haunt the nation for years to come. Gacy's crimes had sent shockwaves through America, forever tainting the image of the jovial clown. The cultural effects of Gacy's monstrosities are profound and enduring. His atrocities not only horrified a nation, but also left an indelible mark on popular culture. The once innocent and amusing figure of the clown became a symbol of dread. Consider the countless films, books, and television shows that feature menacing clowns. Many trace their inspiration back to Gacy, the man who turned laughter into screams. A wave of coulrophobia, the fear of clowns, swept over America and beyond. This fear, often dismissed as irrational, found a chilling justification in the reality of Gacy's crimes. Parents and children alike began to view clowns with suspicion and unease, a stark contrast to the joy and amusement they were meant to inspire. Gacy's influence didn't stop at the circus tent. He reshaped the landscape of true crime, becoming a dark reference point for future investigations. Profilers and investigators began to understand that the most heinous of criminals could hide behind the most ordinary of facades. The charismatic businessman, the jovial clown, the friendly neighbor, all could conceal a heart of darkness. Gacy's legacy also permeated the art world. Artists, writers, and filmmakers found in his story a disturbing muse. His crimes inspired songs, films, and novels, each exploring the dual nature of the man, the clown, and the killer. This exploration of duality, of the monstrous lurking within the mundane, continues to fascinate and horrify audiences. The horror of Gacy's crimes transcends the man himself. His legacy is a chilling testament to the darkness that can reside in the human heart, a darkness capable of unspeakable evil. The jovial clown, the friendly neighbor, the successful businessman, all masks hiding a monstrous reality. Gacy's legacy is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the most ordinary of facades. In the aftermath of Gacy's reign of terror, it's important to ask, what can we learn from this horrifying chapter in American history? The story of John Wayne Gacy serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of ordinary life. This man, a respected member of his community, used his status to hide a sinister secret. This teaches us the first lesson: never underestimate the potential for evil, even in places where you'd least expect it. The second lesson is about the importance of thorough investigations. Throughout Gacy's criminal career, there were several instances where suspicions arose, yet were not properly pursued. Had authorities been more diligent, perhaps Gacy's reign of terror could have been curtailed earlier, and many lives could have been spared. We must remember that every suspicion deserves careful attention, and every lead must be pursued to its end. Thirdly, Gacy's story highlights the dangers of ignoring signs of abuse. From his turbulent childhood to his manipulative relationships as an adult, Gacy's life was marked by patterns of abuse that were largely overlooked. Society often turns a blind eye to such issues, either out of discomfort or disbelief. It is vital, though, that we acknowledge and address these patterns when we see them, for they are often the breeding ground for future atrocities. Lastly, we learn the necessity of compassion. The victims of Gacy, young men whose lives were tragically cut short, deserve to be remembered not as mere statistics, but as individuals with their own dreams and potentials. In our quest for justice, we must never forget the human element. Each victim is a stark reminder of the devastating impact one person's actions can have on so many others. As we remember the victims of John Wayne Gacy, we must strive to ensure that such a tragedy is never repeated. We owe it to them to learn from this grim chapter in our history and work towards a future where such horror is unthinkable.